Just so everybody's reminded of where we are. Way me ways, Williamson will come up. I know, wearing skeleton stuff the day before mourning day for some people might be a little bit like, oh, but on that note. But well, I'll lend to my housemate for being like, hey, I'm getting rid of this stuff because most of you know a lot of our stuff is still back on the East Coast because of settler colonialism. Matawal Yang, how are you? Como? This is also a gift. And I feel like this will go really well on here because we all know the ghosties, Skategamuj, need to be giving all the gifts to BIPOC liberation. So, you know, works out well. Coming on here briefly, I'm still definitely healing. My hands are getting much better. It's dark in here, obviously, and eventually I'll, you know, be more involved with, you know, doing better lighting and better camera and stuff, though he might be getting up and moving around. He's been having some minor stresses the past couple days, so if he's feeling stressy, then I'm gonna probably cut this extra short. But, Guipo. Are you immediately like, no, I can't stream? I'm going to give you a couple minutes to figure it out. There, is that your tummy grumbling? Do you need me to take you outside? Okay. I'm going to let him outside. I'll just stand in the door for now. We'll go from there. That is, if he actually wants to go outside. Do you actually want to go outside? Yeah, let me get your blanket off of you. This is the joy of having something that, you know, I can pick up, because then when the dogs are like, oh no, let us immediately outside, then I also don't know why it's darker on the camera, but it's fine. Escape the noises, and for a second escape the darkness. Yeah, the gate's up, so that's fun. So I gotta keep an eye on these guys from here. Behave, Mo. They've been trying to eat the compost, which they know they're not supposed to be getting into. So I'm sure a lot of people are having a lot of various feels about everything that's going on right now. I know right now my housemates, because they both are capable, are both, you know, doing work today, and one of them is at work tomorrow, and as people who also honor mourning day and don't honor Thanksgiving, they are both having the usual, like, I don't want to say the usual, but the rough time that sometimes happens. And I'll go into that briefly in a minute. I'm just also watching Mudra, making sure he's not getting into stuff. And most of that is that, no, off, Alalin. Most of that is probably similar to a lot of people who don't, like, who out there don't, and, you know, in some places it's better now, but who, you know, don't celebrate, like, Christmas, and maybe instead celebrate Hanukkah, or, you know, any other holiday, solstice and like, and the visceral reaction people used to have to that, some people still do. Well, off. I know I told you it's cold out. You want to come inside? Part of it is one of the housemates just left the house, so they're both just excited to try and follow them, and that's not going to work. Vijay. Lalin. Close this up. Escape from the bright lights. So, I'm going to get them some fresh water because they just ended up drinking the last of theirs a second ago. But so basically tomorrow, me and Tesser Toy are planning on cooking as per usual because, food. Just gonna see if this can balance here for a minute while I get the dog's water. Bam. And so with that, there's going to be Three Sister soup and roasted sweet potatoes, and I'm sure plenty of other things. We're definitely going to be making Bessie Prosper's Luskenegan. For anybody that's like, what's a Luskenegan? Heritage bread is a big thing. For people that aren't aware, like when the Scots Irish, and with that, by that I also mean, just like separately the Scottish and the Irish came over, they brought with them, and by that I mean the indentured servants and the people, generally forced to come over here. It really does help everyone when they actually recognize that, like colonization has just been, a constant chain reaction effect of like, hitting up continent after continent after continent and then just doing it to one another. And, then people are less confused then about why people, bully each other and white supremacy goes on today. People are taught to not talk about that because it's unsafe for them to do so. You gonna hover on the live stream? Not so much? Okay. But so we'll be prepping food. I and Tessa Dore are continually reminding ourselves and our housemate, like, grounding yourself when people are rude. Because it really is like, people will be like, Happy Thanksgiving, and mesque for triggering language. Because I know that's triggering for plenty of people, because it's definitely triggering for me as somebody that grew up in Massachusetts territory. And what that means, which is not just that, you go, I'm an indigenous person, I don't want to celebrate something that's still upholding our genocide that's still going on over 530 years later. It's that when you say you're an indigenous person in Massachusetts territory, which is legally occupied, it's called Massachusetts nowadays. Back in the day, for me at least, it meant I got my face punched in every single day from childhood. So, there's still racist mascots all over the place out there. The list goes on. That's why Mourning Day exists. Along with, the history of why Thanksgiving exists. And for people that need to learn more about that, I'm sure I'll talk more about it later. I'm sure I'll talk more about the massacres. I'm sure I'll talk more about the largest governmental hanging on record under Lincoln of the 38th Dakota. I'm sure I'll talk about all the things I know I do all the time. But for right now, I'm going to kind of like, because if you want to, you can go onto YouTube or anywhere else and you can look up Wampanoag. It's specifically like one of my favorite videos currently. I'm just going to show what's on Pocket Charm, because as usual, Pocket Charm is continually getting updated. So many videos. Oh my, just stuff in general. And for anybody that's like, oh, but Mourning Day, how do I learn more about it? You can literally, I'll pull up that first before going to, you can literally go to, it's UAINE.org, and they'll give you info. And there'll be a link to the live stream. And it goes on every year. The day after Mourning Day. And this is also for people that are like, oh, is this like, is it safe to talk about Palestine at a Mourning Day event? Of course it is. Mourning Day is not just for indigenous people to the Western Hemisphere, Turtle Island, Michijiminiku. Michijiminiku means Turtle Island. Michiju being turtle and Miniku being island. It's global. It's anywhere you're at where indigenous people are having their land taken from them, or they've had their land taken from them, or they're, doing everything in their power to, not just get their rights and sovereignty back, but, to make sure settler colonialism is no longer pressing any of us. So this is any continent, any hemisphere. No one is exempt from being invited to this holiday. The only thing that might make you not be invited, but like find showing up as hard is if you are really just into white supremacy, settler colonialism, not wanting to empower BIPOC liberation and all your relations to be free of oppression. This includes if you have any sort of like transphobia, homophobia going on. I know I talk about this all the time, but that really is because, you know, before settler colonialism got over here, the genders that were already over in this hemisphere, just like anywhere else that settler colonialism has, you know, impacted, did not have genders that were settler colonial genders, which means there was no forcible divisions like that. Don't get me wrong, every nation did their own thing, but like the way settler colonialism functions in dividing people up in certain labels and types via sex, gender, race. And I'm doing this because, again, like race is a construct, just like settler colonial gender is a construct. It would just kind of be silly, and I understand like there are plenty of people who again like have survived settler colonialism and because of that have negative opinions about people who are outside of the very narrow, very confining settler colonial gender binary. But like the thing is like that's a large part of the population of like the entire world, and so it'd be really like weird and very settler colonial to be upholding that at a mourning day ceremony, because again these genders have existed for thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. Like keep adding thousands. And again, I've talked about that previously. You can look at other stuff I've talked about. But I'm going to put this down just a little bit for lighting. No. I like having everybody up there in the screen anyways. But, so we're going to be setting up food. If I'm capable of going out, which I would really like to just go out to the park. I'd love to go out to the park and walk around. Usually on mourning day, I have my missing, murdered Indigenous women, two spirits, children, and relations handprint, which is the red handprint for people that know that. Because of how my hands and my skin on my hands are, because of what I was already healing from, that was definitely made much worse because of recent cop violence, when the cops came to our building and made everybody get out of the building and go sit out on the curb, and you know, like there's a lot of terrible things going on with that. It's not the worst experience I've had with police. But I've had a lot of bad experiences with police, so it's like, it just goes into like the stack. And again, I've talked about plenty of that before. You can look at other videos, find that, be it on YouTube. And I think I may have someone here, but I'm not sure. But for us, we're going to be cooking, eating delicious food, playing awesome music. I definitely play a whole lot of Eastern Eagle. Obviously Hallucination as well, but Eastern Eagle is one of my go-tos because of being Olnu. A lot of Joey Gould, Gould, which means the Pancake Song will be playing this house a bunch. If you don't know what that is, feel free to look into it. It's hilarious. It is all in Olnu, and it is entirely about the stress a darkly melanated BIPOC man had driving from Mi'kma'ki down to Boston, to pick up his mother-in-law to bring back to Mi'kma'ki with his family. He made up this song and sang this song the whole way because of the stressors of driving as a melanated man, especially to Boston, which is there's a lot of deep history with the city that I grew up just outside of, both with it being one of the first places in quote unquote America that focused as heavily as possible on jailing and eradicating through jailing and death penalties, Ulnu and other indigenous people in the Northeast. Again, that's where I grew up. It'd be wonderful if a lot of that had changed by this point. And it's gotten better, but you know, there's a long ways to go. And so Mourning Day happens for that and many, many other reasons. And so, and I was pulling up Meske, the Wampanoag youth that I have been really, really liking the video of. I have been trying to find more people talking about Anime Pictu on Mourning Day. I'm still running into a lot of silence there. I wish I wasn't, but it remains unsurprising to me. It remains unsurprising to me, Miss Kennedy. And I'll give Luke a chance of scratching his box. Wait till you start. Are you gonna let me record, Moo? I'll be getting off here soon, I promise. I've been doing a lot of, as usual, you know, as I am capable of sometimes not being able to use my hands for a bit. Great, no. Means I've been watching a lot of various videos. Quay. The Maltese. Are you coming back? We're not going back outside yet. We're just outside. You gotta wait a little bit. Malala. And with those videos, it's very interesting. I know this is a little bit of a jump, but again, this goes back to Mourning Day being for everybody. I've been starting to watch, or I've been watching the anime Laid Back Camp, which got suggested to me through various different people. And I do enjoy the anime, but I'm really, really annoyed how much Ainu are not talked about. Does it make you upset too, Mo? How Ainu are not talked about in the show at all, especially with them talking about Hokkaido and the like. So there's indigenous everywhere, everybody. In the case of the Ainu, they weren't recognized until 2019. I know it's upsetting, isn't it? Do you need to go back outside? This is why I want them to be able to just run out the door and be able to do what they need to do. As in the dogs. Again, cops being the main reason why that doesn't happen. Do you need to go outside for a minute? I'll stand in the door again. That'll allow me to grab a letter. So because the time of year it is, and the stress people have around the time of year it is. Go ahead, Mo. Just behave, please. Don't get into the compost. Mo. Now we're outside. Give me a second. Off. Allow them. Because of the time of year it is and the stress a lot of people have around it for understandable reasons, I've been seeing, sadly, a lot of people, I don't know if they're being clickbaity or whatever, using Thanksgiving as a term, MSK again for the triggering language, everybody, using Thanksgiving as a term to throw around, possibly to just make people mad. And I'm just like, and this is not indigenous people. Bo! Hold on 1 second, guys. I gotta go get dogs. I don't want this to lose. Here we go. He's going back inside. Let's go. it's you. Do you need to do anything else, Marie? You're also going to try eating compost. He's thinking about it. We'll give him a minute. Bowie tried to get me to chase him around the yard. Yeah. There you go. Sassy dogs. Was that it? So, I've been on Blue Sky. Been starting to be more active on there. Generally thankful for what I'm seeing. But again, it's the time of year. And so with that means people have been saying some very foolish stuff. People have also been posting a lot about Wicked. A lot of people really aren't aware of how, and I'm aware of these things again, like I luck out. You're about to really hear about this in a second because I have a letter that was sent to me that was written by Miskami Jbumpa, my grandfather, who passed when I was much younger. So Frank Baum, who wrote Wizard of Oz, massively racist person, like not just anti-indigenous, but also he was very, very big on like putting people that he viewed as not human in depictions of like as being like animals or witches or etc. Which is interesting because of like his like heritage and upbringing when it came to like being aware of things like the witch trials over in quote unquote Europe. Being Irish, like that's understandable, being aware of that. Because for people that aren't aware, like again, settler colonialism came in and went like, your public free land is no longer public and free. And you can pay taxes to our monarchy or go to jail. Ways you can get out of jail is, selling us your daughters to send them across the water to be wives of the settler colonial military complex that was going on in other places, or, just being sent back to Britain. And there's a lot more to that. But so, like, and part of the way, again, with the witches part, that, like, land was repeatedly removed from women, was back in the day being like, oh, you're a widow, oh, you're a woman that, like, now that we've said, like, like, land has to be property, oh, you own this property, you must be a witch. So we got to get rid of you so we can get your land, so we, can put landlords and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so Frank Baum was aware of that stuff, but that doesn't change the fact that, like, a lot of people who identify in whiteness or enable whiteness like to separate BIPOC spiritualities' rights from the rights of other pagans, which we all know is a thing. Again, with these videos, I know there's people out there that are going to argue with me about this, just like somebody argued with me on Blue Sky about these things. Again, I grew up outside of Boston. Like, I grew up with the argument every day being that me and my ancestors are actually dead. Like, kid in elementary school being told by my teacher, and therefore, and the rest of the teachers in school, and my principal, and all the kids in my school, that actually, if I am actually an indigenous person, if I was an Indian, then I'm dead. I'm not a real person. And this isn't just the, like, kill the Indian, save the man line, because at that time, I didn't look like anybody that was codified by settler colonial binary genders as anyone masculine. But because I was an indigenous child, I wasn't allowed to really have, like, a gender per se that I could fit into anyways. no matter how hard I may try to, like, code switch or put a mask on to get into that place, it never worked out. Um, and at some point, so I've been watching, it's Paris TT MPPED. I'm getting better at doing the little jingle. I've been watching. They're a trans black man that I really appreciate the videos of. They're talking about how too few of us talk about dating when we're growing up, and I will talk about that at some point because I'm being poly and being in my 40s now. I've dated a lot of people. I'm still with the same partner I've been with for about 16 years now, but that doesn't stop me from being poly when I like mesh with certain people. I have a tendency to not really like actively go out of my way to find people to be in like committed romantic sexual etc relationships with. um I find they happen. I find most of the time I'm going out of my way to try and find people that I can have conversations with that are, anti-racist, BIPOC liberation, marginalized liberation conversations with. And that's usually where the problem comes up because I'll run into plenty of people. They're like, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter and women's rights and trans rights. And I'm like, yeah, land back. And they're just like, excuse me, what? And I'm just like, yeah, land back, where we all work together to ensure we're all having our autonomy respected, like children are no longer being stolen from their parents, like the list really goes on. Um, and again, on Pocket Charm, I just posted another video recently that talks a lot more about settler colonialism and land back. Well, that video is by Dr. B Teaches. There you go. Again, if you're on Pocket Charm, you can find it. Also, I'm sure I will link it on my YouTube and on my Blue Sky at some point. Pocket Charm is free. All you gotta do is go on Patreon, sign up on the free tier, and if you sign up to on the like give money tier, Walalin, because again, injuries mean that I have not been able to make money for years now. And thankfully, moving out here means my nerve damage from settler colonialism as a child is healing drastically, but also all these other injuries, which are thankfully almost all the way better, have kept me from being able to do things out and about, including, like going out for a walk, which I miss. I will very much enjoy being able to take my bike out all over the place. But so, and yes, I know my stories go all over the place, but this is how I was raised. So I was on Blue Sky, and I don't want to be calling out names, so I'm not going to. But somebody was talking about Wicked, and I brought up the fact that the Wicked Witch of the West is was originally drawn and written in the way settler colonists were drawing and writing about BIPOC melanated people at that time, especially indigenous women and black women. Ready for me to be done? By black women, I mean not just African American women, but the fact that indigenous women back in the day were also codified as black because they were melanated. This is just factual. And it was a common thing to be drawing extremely, at least out in the Midwest and the West, extremely angular masculine faces. But like in that really weird, messed up, like spoofy way, like sexist way that you see a lot of cartoonists still do to this day. And people dispute that, and the thing is, like, a lot of people like to make these facts very, like, either or, and not, like, the human authors, writers, and illustrators had various different things that they were trying to insult in these children's books, and it's just like, but so, a person jumped in on my comment, just like being like, "Hey, sorry, XYZ about um, this story and like the background of these characters," and they like just like started like flooding, and I felt really, again, like I feel bad when I like go onto somebody's page already. I'm like, "Hey, just heads up, this does have like really negative racial connotations to it." Um, and then if the person asked me, which was the case, like me explaining a little bit, it is a very common aspect of my life, and you'll hear Moocher in the background right now because clearly he wants to go back outside and try to get into the compost. I'll go back out with you in a few minutes when I can keep an eye on you, but right now I want to finish this up. It's really common in my life, both in person and online, that when you bring up anything having to do with BIPOC reality, people, including other BIPOC, but like people will jump in as fast as they can, unload the settler colonial narratives that are out there, doing their best to discredit things by again being like it's either or, it can't be numerous things. Um, and I did what I was taught by my family, by elders I've met, by people my own age and younger that I've met, by my ancestors, and I asked what nation they're from. Um, and they didn't answer me, so I asked again, to which they became very, very upset that I would ask something like that and said that me asking that is my way of trying to, I think they said like disqualify their information or something like that, and also like what was I gonna do? Ask their sex next. And as somebody who's very Polonak and trans and not a settler colonial binary gender, I was just like, I don't think we understand one another. And I didn't say that. I said what I'm supposed to say next, which is done because it brings back the focus that we are all here to interrelate with one another with awareness and compassion and respect as best as we can, that we all come with completely different perspectives in our lives, and everybody, because of what we're taught by settler colonialism, makes snap judgments about one another. And I'm no different than that. I'm working on that too. um, about who we are, where we come from, what we do, like what we care about, what we think, etc. Without actually engaging with that person. Like, obviously, if this person had looked in my blue sky, they would see it was covered in um, people in Gaza who need help, indigenous stories, and people who are indigenous talking about their lives and indigenous issues that are going on. Um, Queer, trans, NB, etc., like the entire rainbow umbrella issues that are going on, um, and a whole lot of black content creators and their issues that are going on. Because again, this is what I'm taught to do, and I should say BIPOC, not just black, because again, like I have a tendency to center back on, um, besides indigenous stories and creators, on black content creators, because of the fact that they are just so erased. But that doesn't change the fact that obviously, like the narrations of anybody who is from Asia is erased. Anybody from really any hemisphere, including like anybody that's from America, like people's narrations are actually regularly erased on a regular basis. Some definitely more than others. Um, but so I responded, and I said, Williamson no kama, Mattel. Actually, I might have said, because I didn't want to like get too much into too much language at first, because again, like it can really go either way, in person or otherwise, when you do that. I was like, Williamson no kama, Telewisi Tiber, Onu Migma Pisneu Diaspora. I grew up surviving Massachusetts territory, and I've survived through Lenapehoking, Powhatan, Monacan, Dine, Ute, now Nuuvi, and many other places, like many other places, like as despite our poverty, my extended family has always done its best to make sure I have been around a lot of different people, whether we could afford it or not, to just better hammer home like how we're supposed to engage with one another, speak to one another. And so I said that, and then as in the short part that I said already, and I was like, hey, can we take this off of this person's page because I already feel bad having talked about my personal trauma stuff on their page. I don't want to be flooding them. I hope you have a fantastic morning day and every day, and I hope you're well watered. I haven't been text yelled at since that. I haven't had anything said to me since that. This is not uncommon. Just like if I'm outside playing Eastern Eagle or any other indigenous music, there's a tendency of two things either happening with a lot of very specific types of people that are upholding settler colonialism in some way or another. I'm not saying that this person was intending to do so, but they were in some sense or another. And we're all doing it in some sense or another. I'm not like better than this person or anything like that. Which is some people, if I turn on Eastern Eagle, look like they're glitching. They do like this, and they run through the hills. It is rarely melanated people that give me this response. In fact, typically dancing might end up happening with everybody there if it's, melanated people. But and plenty of time, light-skinned folk also get in on it because obviously light-skinned indigenous people and light-skinned everybody else also exist. We've all been mixing as people for thousands and thousands of years, and as a reminder, again, like before settler colonists came over here, light-skinned people were already coming over this hemisphere and getting down with people here consensually. So kids have been coming out light in plenty of places. In most places, for a very, very long time. That doesn't mean necessarily it was because of horrible things. But, once settler colonialism comes into the mix, that usually is why. As much as, anybody may want to try to erase that. So I said what I said. I shut off my phone, which I generally have been doing a lot, and that's just because my hands really hurt when I touch my phone. But because of that just being a good practice, it's a good idea to shut off your phone and not touch it. Sometimes for days on end. Obviously, if you have family or whoever you need to check on, like emergency stuff or whatever, it's fine. But like not scrolling and stuff, that's very, very good for you. But so I went outside, and we are in the middle of the desert. It's been a very, very dry summer and fall here, from what I've been told. I have not been out this way since I was much younger. Nugamish was out this way before previously because she also traveled all over the place, which is again one of the main reasons why I'm out here. One of the reasons being that we need to find a place where trans people might possibly be safe because everywhere else we've been has been like no matter what their politics say. Also needed to find a place that we could actually like have a roof over our head. Again, like I'm still not legally housed. We are literally in a space with a roof over our head that we and the dogs are safe in because we have a friend that we had offered to be able to stay over at our place in Lenape-Hoking right before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and then 4 years later we're here. And so I went outside, and immediately it started drizzling, which out here that's a really, really, really big deal. And for anybody that understands, like the ancestors engaging and talking, like that was a really, really big deal. So I said, well, I'll lend Annie my pick too, because you should always remember her when it rains. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who should also be remembering. And I came inside, and I was having various feelings, getting through the stressors of somebody saying very like harmful, racially charged things at me, a couple days before Mourning Day. Thankfully, this is probably going to be the best Mourning Day that I've had in my life, and that is because I have two other people around me who actively engage with their own history and ancestry, as scary and tough as that can be. as much as sometimes, our elders are too scared to talk about these kind of things because of what has happened to them or their parents or other elders they've seen in the past or even presently, because of the way people are treated right now. I mean, obviously, it's kept taking week was November of 2024, so everybody knows what's going on right now. And not just, Indigenous Native American Heritage Month, like many, many things been going on. But, so I was in here getting through my feels, and then we saw our neighbor dropped off a letter outside. And Tessa Toy went out and got it. They brought it in, and it was from Nugamish Nikish. Now, Nikish is my mom. Nikish literally means my mom. Nugamish means my grandmother, my nana. Nugamish just recently turned 91. And she's still going. Winter in Massachusetts territory is coming up, and I know she's already being like, those plows better get that snow out of the way of my boots so I can do my walks, because otherwise she'll just go. And so Nikish went out to visit. Nikish is usually on Ute territory, that's Colorado, quote unquote, doing the work that she does there of helping the desert be restored to being a vast community garden for everybody, wherever it, says that it wants to, and has been feeding her community and town that way, which is just amazing. She sent us a squash and a whole huge bag of seeds, which we'll be doing some planting of tomorrow. But so Tessa Choi brought in the letter because Nikish went out to visit Nugamish for her 91st birthday, and they were going through stuff, including engaging with a bundle that I sent. If you're like a bundle, like an Amazon bundle, no, this is unless you're talking about like the Amazonian rainforest in the nations there, no. Something that I had sent to the family that had taken me a while to slowly bundle and send their way. And they were going through, as usual, Nugamisha's stuff, because Nugamisha is another keeper of a lot of information. And with that, there was a poem, and I may cry while reading this, and it's fine, written by Niskamish Bumpa. Bumpa's named Bumpa because one of me and my cousins, when we were younger, we weren't able to say grandpa at first, so it was Bumpa. It has a little post-it note on it saying, "Hey Ty, Bumpa wrote this, and as Nana and I are going through old things, and here it's for you!" Exclamation point. Love quiche. I'll leave that stuff. This is the poem. Now, I'm sure I'll talk more about Bumpa in my videos. They passed away when I was shortly after right when I was leaving. I think it was right before I left. It might have been right after I left Massachusetts territory, which is right when I barely graduated high school. Not because lack of ability to read or really do anything, but just because my school again would respond to me being like, no, I'm still Mi'kmaq. I'm still old new, and I'm still here, by giving me triple detentions and suspensions and letting really violent things happen to me in school and stuff like that. So like many other BIPOC children, I almost did not make it out. And well, all into the teachers that helped me to make it out of there. But Bumpa, as a person, and I'm going to probably say is a lot because that's also just like a habitual hereditary thing, is somebody who's a very musical person, a lot of writing, and is another reason, my family is a big reason why I show up to meeting people with a very like, there's really no reason why you would want to uphold white supremacy, because that's my family. That's literally how my family talks. When they're around each other and when they're around other people, it depended on who it was. Bumpa was very, very, very big. Man from Texas. Cowboy hat and boots. And firefighter, and just like, and was very like, if you're ever gonna like do one of these things, never be a cop, be a firefighter, please. Because we were very no cop family. Still a very no cop family to my knowledge. Long before I had any negative interactions with cops, running up and being not nice to me starting in childhood. But Bumbo was the type that if he saw somebody being inappropriate, would just walk on over and be like, we don't like racists here. Do you need to talk about why you're doing that with somebody that's, big enough to, and light-skinned enough to not be terrified of you or worried about you? Because I'm standing here now. That was Bumpa, and he would do it like with a laugh and like maybe a little like semi dance. But a lot of like how he was, he also like kept very, and that's because of like he had a very, very rough life. Here goes music again. We're gonna wait. He loves living in his box. It's like his favorite thing. And because of him having the life that he did, he was not a very big fan, besides the settler colonialism, white supremacy, oppression, racism, homophobia, transphobia, any of that. He also had religion forced on him a lot when he was younger. And being Ulnu, Roman Catholicism is really important to us, not because we view ourselves as upholding settler colonial Roman Catholicism. It's a way to be like, okay, you have to answer for yourself. And because of treaties that Ulnu, Mi'kmaq, you're going to have to wait soon, had with the Pope as a means, you gotta wait, as a means to try and ensure that people like me and people who will be coming after me, descendants, would be safe, or safer. We all know how settler colonialism has been treating treaties. And so, I'm going to read this, and I'm going to head outside with Moo and make sure he doesn't eat compost. Forgive us. A big sigdach. Forgive us. What happened to the Indians who roamed this graceful place from seacoast to the desert and forest to hills and to open space? They hunted both for fish and game, for hunger, not for greed, and danced for rain when crops were dry because they had need. One day the white man came, stripped them of possessions, and the S in possessions has a dollar sign, and I'm just like, this is where I get it from. MSK for triggering language coming up. He raped them of their land and pride, and made not one concession. My brothers and sisters, it's funny, it originally had an uppercase B, but it's lower. He put a lowercase b above it and uppercase S. How I apologize. To feel the shame of what's been done, the stealing and the lies, and then below stealing he wrote steal again with a big, like, underline. And then he talked about Atson. How cold and thoughtless we've become. Our unfeeling lack toward human kindness. Our fate is in the hands of God. Forgive us for our blindness. And then it repeats, my brothers and sisters, how I apologize. My brothers and sisters. He wrote this and put it to the side. I don't think he put it to music, despite putting most things to music. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the content. Because again, like, Nugamij was born in a time where you couldn't speak about these things, and neither could he. It was like great way for the government to come after you. And while, don't get me wrong, FBI vans have still been going, we're going around the block recently here. Oh my goodness. Are we going outside in a minute? It still is there's still more space for us to be talking about these things. And so I'm going to move out because I told him I would. I may do another video at some point before tomorrow or tomorrow, but most likely I'm going to rest. My point with all this is, no matter what you're celebrating, I hope you're empowering all your relations to actually be free. And learning stuff, because the information's out there. It's always been out there, but now it's much more readily available. Yeah. Take care of yourselves, everybody. And the Maltese. I was going to come on here and sing and have prayer time, but this went how it was supposed to go. And now I gotta get Mudra. No Maltese.